It's the day after the Southampton Boat Show, and we've had a last-minute invitation to come down and experience the Dale Classic 37 for ourselves out on the water. Now we're down at Shamrock Quay, and I can hear the wind whistling through the masts. So there should be a fair bit of breeze and hopefully a bit of chop that will enable us to experience just what that legendary Dale hull is all about. So let's jump on board, take it out, and go and see how she performs. So the thing Dales are most known for are their hulls, and we've got the opportunity now in quite a breezy Southampton water to experience that for ourselves. Now the first thing you need to know about a Dale hull is that it's a semi-planing or semi-displacement hull. So it's designed by Arthur Marcel of TT Boat Designs, and rather than a full planing hull, it actually has this semi-displacement hull that will cut its way through the water and actually carve a sort of channel through it. And that in theory helps it stop getting on top of the water and banging up and down over the waves as it goes. The other thing is it's immensely strongly built. So you've got this really heavy duty structure. So this boat weighs about 12 tons all in, and it has its fuel tanks actually inside the keel. So it has a short keel underneath the boat that not only gives it stability and tracking stability, it also keeps the weight nice and low. And by having a fore and an aft tank, it also means the trim stays the same, even when you've got full tanks or relatively empty tanks. So that's the theory of it. But now let's experience it and see what happens. So we've got twin 440 horsepower Yanmars. They're on straight shafts. It's a very traditional setup, very easy to look after and gives good low speed control. We've synced both the engines. At the moment we've got no trim on. We're tootling along, we're doing 1100 RPM, about 8 knots, very nice and civilized inside this wheelhouse, and at this speed we're burning 8 litres per hour per engine, so around about 16 litres per hour in total. But then the beauty of a semi-planing boat is that there's no particular hump that you're trying to get over to get on the plane, so we can happily take it up to, let's say, 15 knots. So we're now doing 14, there we go, we're doing 15 knots now, 2,200 RPM, and on a planing boat this is often a really awkward speed. You're not quite on the plane, you're not quite off it, so the bow tends to be very high. It's very inefficient because you're pushing a load of water, whereas this is perfectly comfortable. We're doing 15 knots, 2,100 RPM, 33 litres per hour per engine. There's a little bit of bow lift, but nothing too concerning. I've got really good view forwards. We've got 2 big windscreens in front of me, so even though we've got a mullion either side, we've got a really big screen in front of the helm position itself. And in true Dale heritage, we've got a port hand side helm, but also a really nice door here, which is fantastic to be able to easily step out onto the side deck if you want to. Obviously allows a bit of extra fresh air in, and you've got the throttles on the port side too, so that if you want to be on the side deck coming in alongside, you've got easy access to the throttles as well. But let's up the speed a bit more. So even though this is a semi-displacement boat, and mostly you'll probably cruise around about 19, 20 knots, it's actually got enough power to go a whole lot quicker. So let's put the throttles down and demonstrate that. Let's go all the way. Now because we're inside the wheelhouse, it's still impressively refined. I'm not raising my voice at all. I can hear the engine noise and feel a little bit of vibration through the hull, but it also feels immensely solid. And now we're doing 28 and a half knots. We're pulling 3,400 RPM, and there's still not the slightest hint of a slam. It just feels so solid, so consistent. There's no sudden awkward handling, or there's no feeling of lift or sudden drop down. We're just pushing our way through the waves, and hence there's no bang or slap at all. We're just cutting through it. The other advantage is it's got immense grip on the water, so that keel stops it sliding sideways, and I'll just demonstrate that in a minute. We're just waiting, make sure there's nothing on our port hand side. We're doing 28 knots flat out, and let's put it into a turn. Okay, all the way over, and now you can feel that keel digging in. And there's a little bit of lean, but not much actually. But the way it just tracks round is remarkable. I'm just going to keep on going all the way. Got a bit of a red jet coming towards us, so I want to make sure I stay out the way of that. But there we go, that is a full 360-degree circle, and it's completed it with no slip. It just digs in and goes. The steering weights up a little bit, but that's kind of reassuring. It lets you know what it's doing. But it just, again, feels so secure and so reassuring. And now we're going into the waves. We've got a sort of wind against tide situation. You can see there's some white tops on the waves themselves. But again, we'll just push down the tabs a little bit, get that bow digging in. And now we're doing 29 knots in the other direction, and it's just as comfortable. That is what it looks like doing 28.5 knots down a really quite messy Southampton water. You can see we've got white horses all around, we've got ferries on either side. Really quite choppy, and yet the boat feels absolutely rock solid. There's no banging at all, no smashing, chucking out a load of water. Look at that. But that is what the Dale hull is all about. It just ploughs through absolutely anything without the slightest complaint. And it just feels completely bulletproof. See some of the spray coming off there, but there's no bashing or slapping from the hull at all. It's just pushing the water aside. And that's the benefit of having a semi-displacement hull with a big keel that's not riding over the surface, it's just pushing straight through it. Look at that, it's just tracking round on that keel. No slip at all, no fuss. We're still going through. We're doing a full 360-degree turn. You can see the weight behind us. Absolutely flying through. So there's a reason people talk about Dale with slightly hushed tones and a certain amount of reverence, because the seakeeping really is unlike anything else out there. And it doesn't seem to particularly matter how big the boat is. I've driven a 23-foot boat. We've tested their 45-foot boats. They all seem to handle in the same way. They have immense grip, really reassuring seakeeping, and that feeling that is built out of absolute granite. Nothing seems to phase it. Most boats, there's no way you'd be doing 30 knots, 29 knots into a head sea like this. And sure, it throws up a little bit of water. You might need to put the wipers on from time to time, but I'd trade that any day for the kind of ride you get on this. Now, Dale are a boat yard based in Wales. They build their boats incredibly strongly. They're probably best known for the original Nelson hulls that they used to build, and now they've got their own range using a TT design, semi-displacement, really tough hull, a kind of pilot boat hull that they've been made into a beautiful, luxurious leisure boat. So they used to build a 45 Classic. This is almost a smaller version of that. It's a bit more manageable. It's obviously not quite as long, but in many ways the actual interior and the accommodation is much the same. So let's have a closer look and show you exactly what I mean by that. Now, first thing to admire is this rather lovely Pantograph style door in the transom. You can see this lovely angled transom and a custom-made stainless steel Pantograph hinge that swings out. Just look at the quality of that, absolutely lovely. And of course the woodwork is also an absolute hallmark of Dale. They do it so beautifully. This is all highly varnished teak, and then inside it's oak, although intriguingly the actual decks are all in artificial teak. It's flexi teak, and that's just to make it easier to maintain. So it won't fade, it's easier to look after, but all the other wood is genuine wood and beautifully done. Now you can see there's this very sociable U-shaped seating area here with twin tables either side. We've got brochures on at the moment, but you can see that those fold open and join together so that you can have a complete seating area all the way around, and lots of space to sit out in the cockpit to have a lovely lunch and really enjoy the boat. Now it's a traditional shaft drive boat. We'll have a look at the engines in a minute, but that's again very much part of the whole ethos. It's supremely good in heavy weather. We've got some storage under here. You can see there are latches on the seats. See if I can just quickly undo those. You can see lots of good storage in there. We're at a boat show, so it's always full of kit, but again they're very, very practical designs. There's always plenty of storage on board, and everything is very seaman-like, so it all clips into place, so it's not going to go anywhere when you get caught out in a bit of a rough sea. Now you can see this is a wheelhouse design. There's side decks along here. We'll take a look at the side decks in a minute, and proper old school sort of capstan style cleats, but really big, chunky, heavy stainless steel, beautifully polished. And then wheelhouse doors. You can see there are 4-part doors. It's bifold doors effectively, so we've got one pair here that fold across to that side, and another pair here, which are currently behind the display stand, but they open up the whole interior, so you've got really good access into the wheelhouse itself. Now amazingly, this wheelhouse is pretty much exactly the same size as the one on their 45 Classic. By clever design, they've managed to fit in a similar size accommodation saloon as on their much bigger boat. And this is a nice touch. It's a reversible seat, but this is all part of the dinette. You can see that this lifts over, so you can face into the boat or face out of the boat. Very simple little solution, but works very nicely. It's lovely when you're at anchor to be able to sit out and all join part of this sociable area out here. But let's pop it across. Now the galley is over on the starboard side, and again this is a classic display of the craftsmanship that Dale are so well known for. This is all done in oak, and you can just see each of these drawers beautifully done. I know those are lift out ones, but all of these lift out, and they're all on little latches, so when you put them in they drop down, so that's not going to go anywhere until you lift it up and pull it out. But absolutely beautiful craftsmanship. Everything about it is hand built, custom built, exactly how you want it. So look at all that. It's just proper craftsmanship. Now it's a sink under there, that's why I couldn't get in those drawers. I was being fairly stupid about that, but there you can see there is the sink, really big sink and tap, and even the window frames, you can see they're all beautifully surrounded by this lovely oak here. Fridge under here, Bosch oven here, induction hob here. There's even a little coffee maker. Obviously it's covered in sort of boat show gear at the moment, but you can see what I mean. Even the overhead hatches, these little strips in the headlining, all handcrafted oak. Absolutely beautifully done. The storage under these seats, I won't lift them up at the moment, but you can see there is storage under here. And then this is another clever solution. You can see that this is the helm station. Now looks like there's no space there. That's because if we press this button here, it's just a one touch button. That whole helm station just glides slowly back. So the dinette itself, obviously that folds out, so when you want to have the full dining space, you move the helm seat forward, but when you're ready to actually drive the boat, you obviously want the space in front rather than behind. So once that's whirred back into place, you've now got a perfectly ergonomic helm station. Two good seats there. You can see those slide backwards and forwards, so you can adjust it exactly to the kind of legroom and space that you want. There's lots more detailing under here. You can see that's another absolutely beautiful example of their craftsmanship. Look at that. All those cup holders, little slots to slide in and out, perfectly shaped to hold the glass in place. Another shelf up there, bottles down here. Just beautifully done. Helm station, they spent a lot of time working on this, getting this absolutely right, and it's a fantastic mix of old and new. So we've got the big Raymarine MFDs, got the throttles for the Yanmar engines, got bow thruster, traditional compass, but look how beautifully they've done it. So here we've got carbon fibre sort of fascia, and then oak surrounds. Even for the cup holder there's an oak surround. Just looks absolutely lovely. We've still got the traditional analog dials along the top, but then we've got the full digital Raymarine kit down below. But it's very much that Dale combination of modern technology but classically done. There is a pilot seat over on this side with opening side window. You can see that slides back. Lots of nice storage here too. Repeater screens so that the navigator can actually use that. There's even a little light, so for nighttime use you can have that as a red light so that you don't spoil your nighttime vision. There are hatches overhead, opening hatches. I won't open them now, but you can see that those open up. And most importantly of all, there is a door by the helm station, if I can get that right. I'm not sure if I've got the sequence there. There we go, it is open, it's just unlocked. It's an electronic lock, but manual push out. And look at these side decks here. So even here, there's a little step up out onto the side deck. And look at this foredeck. It's a huge, beamy, flat foredeck. And intriguingly, by effectively finishing the side decks at that level and lifting them up to foredeck level, you get the full beam of the entire boat up on this foredeck, and it's just an enormous flat space. You could put freestanding chairs up here, you could put sun pads, but it's also a really good working space, and you can see how far forward the beam is carried here. So right up to the bow, it's still quite wide here, but again, beautiful stainless steel work. And look at the gauge of this stainless steel guardrail as well. It's really, really chunky. It just feels absolutely rock solid. And then there's another nice feature in here. Let's see if we can lift this anchor hatch up. Now that's on a nice gas strut, so it springs up. And look at that anchor. So in order to keep it nice and snug on the bow, you can see it's a very vertical bow, but they wanted to tuck that anchor really nice and close into the bow. But when you take the tension off the chain, those sprung struts push the whole anchor stem right out of the way so that when it drops down into the sea, it clears the vertical bow. Again, really lovely engineering, and look at that stainless steel there. They just do it so well. Close that one. There is a separate one here, if I can just get hold of that. There we go. And look at that for another lovely detail. A freshwater hose and anchor controls so that when the anchor comes up, you can wash off any mud or sand or weed and keep it looking as shiny as it currently looks. Just lovely the way they do that. Now I can take a quick look at the hardtop. You can see there's a big overhang here to try and keep rain or spray off, but then also really good size wipers. And in the side decks here, we'll go and look at the other side deck actually briefly, because that door is slightly in the way there, but built into the side decks. Oh no, it's not on this side actually. You can see there's fueling there, but on this side deck here, under this door, just see if I can temporarily swing it out the way, you can see there is a locker down here, which is specially done to take fenders. So you can see all those fenders lined up there. What a perfect place to keep them. Under the side deck, exactly where you need them, so that you can access them very easily and put them straight into place as you come out onto the side deck. So let's drop back into the wheelhouse. And then look, there's another drawer there. That's the bin. So many nice details. Another one here. Look, that's the fridge. Let's look at that. I mean, most people would just put a fridge and leave the fridge door. Not Dale. They put a lovely oak front on it. Steps down, and the owner's cabin is forward in the bow. So this is the owner's cabin, and again, because of that beam being carried a long way forward, there's actually really good space in here. So it's a queen size bed, got good lockers overhead, you've got light coming in through there, relatively small portholes, but again beautifully lined in oak. Lots more storage all the way round. Even those little locker doors, look at that. Just a work of art. And then over here somewhere, if I can find it, there is another switch, which if I press the button there, this whole bed lifts up on an electronic strut, and underneath here is yet more storage. So huge storage area under the bed where you can put your suitcase or bits and pieces that you don't need to access regularly. It's all there. So what a neat idea. There's obviously more storage on either side. I'll show you that in a minute when this bed has just made its stately way down. It's a little bit slow. That'd be nice if that was a bit quicker, or at least one touch. I think they're going to change that to a one touch button in future. Over here there's another bifold door. You can see it's full hanging wardrobe there. I think there's another little release. Oh, there we go. I won't do that because it's got various things in there that are going to fall out, but you can see yet more storage, hanging locker there. And again, behind this door, that's on a little latch, but there's another locker behind there. So everywhere you look, beautifully done, handcrafted space. Even under here, under the steps, yet another tiny little locker space. Now there is a second cabin. This is partly under the cockpit, but there's good standing headroom here. So at the entrance to the cabin, that's absolutely fine. There's plenty of space. There is another hatch here overhead, yet more storage behind here. And then the bed itself runs under the cockpit, so you start to lose a bit of headroom under here. But actually, people don't really seem to mind. It's usually couples who tend to cruise on this boat. So the second cabin is very much an occasional cabin for children or grandchildren. So they're not too fussed about that. But there is somewhere to stay if you want to have people on board, and then there's more storage behind that. And then of course there is heads through here. And again, look at these beautiful arched doorways. So nicely done. Absolutely beautiful. And a really good sized heads in here. Now this is a wet room. There isn't a separate shower, so you can see there's a teak grate on the flooring and a shower up this side. But because of that teak flooring, any water will drain away, so it's fine. You can have a shower here. You can use the heads, the mirror there, more storage behind. But it's not like you're going to have wet feet, because every time you come in here, somebody's had a shower. It's going to drain away, dry out. But a really good space, and again, good headroom. Let me just demonstrate that. Look at that, plenty of headroom above me here. So 2 cabins on a 37-foot boat, really lovely wheelhouse, lots of nice detail. But last but by no means least, let's just have a quick look down in the engine room, because here you can see what I mean by the traditional design. And again, lift those up on gas supported struts, and here you can see the 2 Yanmar 440 horsepower engines. Traditional straight shafts, loads and loads of space down here. There is another opening section of the hatch behind me here. I won't open that for the moment, but you can see that those 2 tables fold over. But look at that, all the way back there, masses of storage. And cleverly, they've got a Fisher Panda generator back there and a little quick gyro. So it's a quick gyro stabilizer. That means that as well as being supremely robust, semi-displacement hull, you also have a really nice stable ride. So I'm just going to drop this hatch down and talk a little bit about price and speed and range. I might just need to prompt myself here. So this boat starts at £640,000 ex taxes, which, okay, a lot of boats are relatively expensive, but the way this is done, all handcrafted, that seems to me surprisingly good value. So those twin Yanmar 440 horsepower engines give a top speed of around 31 knots. And remember that this is a semi-planing boat, so it's not planing at 31 knots, it is charging through the water. That gives exceptional seaworthiness. It won't slam at all, it's really heavily built. And it has around 1,380 litres of fuel, which will do about 1 mpg at 20 knots and give a range of about 265 miles. Or if you drop it down to displacement speed, that will go up to around 700 miles.